Hi guys, SkyPoint here. Now, a couple hours ago, a fresh new balance patch dropped in the game, and I just wanted to run through the handful of key changes which they made in this. We're going to start with the most dramatic changes, fixing probably something a lot of people were complaining about for quite a while, which was rot flies. So you'll notice now that rot flies are now called rot swarm. And in general, it looks like apart from a name change, nothing has happened. But what you'll notice here is that their ability now says when an enemy dies, put in play a rot fly, not a rot swarm. So what on earth is a rot fly? Well, let's scroll down to the bottom here and take a look. There we go. So a rot fly is pretty much the same as a rot swarm, except it doesn't spawn anything else. So it actually means that you can finally stop the pretty much infinite swarming of flies if you manage to take out the original swarm, which is a nice change, and I think it really balances it much better for a 2-cost unit. Previously, if your rot fly hit the board at the wrong moment, it could be game over for you if you just didn't have a way to stop the constant spawning of flies until you died. So I think this is a great change. It also means they don't grow exponentially anymore, because before, if the enemy had one rot fly and killed one of your units, he would end up with 2 rot flies. If he killed one more of your units, he would have 4 rot flies, and so on. So yeah, this is going to be balancing the demons of the Ruined Storm a lot. I'm just surprised they didn't do this to start with. What was sort of related to this change is an edit to Planetary Purge. Now, Planetary Purge was a card which was added to the game quite recently. It cost 6 energy, and its effect used to be that it would deal 4 damage to a troop, and if that troop died, it would repeat its effect. So it would find another troop and do 4 damage, and so on. And the problem you had is when people had rot flies in play, that effect would just keep running over and over and over and over again, like pretty much almost forever. So I think somebody once recorded a match where 2,000 rot flies died during a Planetary Purge. Well, the devs have changed Planetary Purge as well. Let's take a look at that. They've cut the cost from 6 energy to 5 energy, which is a buff. It now just says deal 4 damage, so it's not dealing 4 damage to a troop anymore. So you can actually, which is also a bit of a buff, because before, if you faced a warlord who didn't leave any troops on the board during your turn, Planetary Purge was a bit of a dead card. It couldn't really do much. And then finally, if the target dies, it repeats its effect on another random unit, not another random troop anymore. And so there's no circumstance under which it can run forever, because at some point it's going to hit a warlord, and that's going to mean that its effect ends. The one watch out here is this is a complete random damage card. So that when it repeats its effect on another random unit, that random unit might be your own warlord. So it's a bit of a risky card. You could probably want to save it for either hitting the enemy warlord directly to deal 4 points of damage, or finishing off the enemy warlord at the end of the match. Or you would use this if you felt comfortable about your health lead and you think the risk of taking 4 points of damage to your warlord is manageable. So overall, despite getting a lower cost and better the ability to hit the enemy warlord, the fact that it can now hit your own warlord and damage you means that this has been a little bit of a nerf to Planetary Purge. Alright, that's 2 out of the 4 changes we've seen. Next in the line of possible nerfs is actually our old friend, where's he gone? He's in the Demons of the Ruined Storm, Samus. So Samus before used to have the ability you would spend 2 energy and give can't attack until your next turn. Now it's been changed so that you'll alternate between can't attack and deal 2 damage. So this one could go either way. You could call it a nerf or a buff. It's a nerf because I actually think it's overall a nerf, because his ability is a bit less reliable. Unless you've been playing things right, you cannot be absolutely guaranteed that when you need to give a unit cannot attack, that Samus will be able to do that at that turn. because if you already did that in the previous turn, then this turn, instead of giving a unit counterattack, he'll just deal some damage to it. On the other hand, you could argue that it's a buff because he didn't have any way of dealing damage himself except by headbutting opponents. But I just feel that it just makes him a little bit harder to play with because you've got to be carefully keeping track of what his action will do this turn and hoping that what it will do is what you need it to do given the circumstances on the board. So I believe it's a slight nerf on Samus. And the very last one is interesting. It's to one of the probably less used and least powerful warlords, Ahriman of the Thousand Suns. So nothing has changed on his card or his abilities, except you'll notice it now says Patterns of Fate. So yes, Ariman has his own special card, and this one is kind of interesting now. Let's go down there and take a look. He gets this special card called Patterns of Fate, which is actually now one of the most expensive special cards in the game. But what it does is that it lets you look at 3 random cards in the enemy hand, and then you get to choose one of those and put a copy into your hand. And then you reduce the cost of that copy by 4 energy. So you basically get an energy discount equal to what you spend. So it's like a supercharged version of Abandoned Supplies, except instead of drawing a random card out of your deck and discounting it, you are going to be drawing copying a card out of the enemy's hand. I personally would have preferred if you to take control of one card in the enemy hand. That would have made things a bit more interesting and made this stronger. Copying is not bad either. It just depends a lot on luck over here, right? Potentially, you could do something crazy like copy Vengeful Spirit out of Sons of Horus deck hands and play it actually in your 5 energy turn, so play really high-end cards early on, which is probably going to be its most powerful purpose. Alternatively, if you steal a card that costs 4 or less energy, you'd be able to play it instantly upon using Patterns of Fate. So it's got an interesting card. I'm just not sure. I mean, it is kind of an interesting card. I'm just not sure if it's good enough to offset Ahriman's other problems. Alright, well, those are the 4 big changes we saw. So we have the rot flies getting finally fixed, so they are no longer spawning forever and ever and ever. We have Planetary Purge getting a little bit nerfed. I mean, you can argue in some ways it's a buff, it's cheaper, you can damage the enemy warlord directly, but it comes with the risk of damaging yourself, which I just do not like much at all. Samus has a slight nerf, although he got the ability to damage things with that. So, not a huge change, I think, on Samus. And then Ariman just got a little bit more interesting. Maybe not interesting enough to be worth it, but I might be tempted just to try him out, just to see how it goes. Alright, I hope this little guide to the changes helped you out, and I will see you on the battlefield. Alrighty everyone, bye for now.